Hey, this is Aarushi and I'm here with the book review of Ken Follett's world-famous Century Trilogy. So Century Trilogy, it consists of three novels, starting with Fall of Giant, which revolves around the First World War. Then we have Winter of the World, which is entirely based on the World War II. And the last and the final novel of this trilogy is named Edge of Eternity, which follows the Cold War era. So this is all about what the novels are based on. And I'm going to start with The Fall of Giants, which is based on First World War. It was published in 2010 by Pan Macmillan, and ever since there has been a cordial relationship between the author and the publisher, and they have published many novels together. Now, besides First World War, this novel also has, many other major historical events that shape the world politics in the early 20th century. Like we have the Russian Revolution, we get to see the women's suffrage movements and all that stuff. Now, I know what you all be thinking about, that isn't our history book enough for that? Why to bore ourselves with this big book when we can, consult our history books for the stuff? I have the same thought when my best friend gifted me the second novel of the Century trilogy named Winter of the World on my 16th birthday. And I was like, what I'm gonna heck do with this novel? This is such a big novel. It will take me like 1 month to complete it, and then it's entirely based on the historical stuff. I don't like the historical stuff. But once I started reading it, trust me, I've thanking her ever since. And you'll be doing the same with me if you start reading them. Trust me. Now, besides the historical events, it focuses on the intertwined lives of five different families with five, different nationalities, but still interrelated. So this thing, crops out the excitement out of the reader, that how are these five families intertwined if they belong to five different nationalities? And I was having the same question at the beginning, but once I finished reading it, I was quite clear about all of these things. Now, the one family belongs to Russia, the other belongs to American. Then we have the English, Welsh, and German. So five different nationalities, but somehow interrelated in this chaotic world. We start with Billy and Ethel Williams, who belong to the poor Welsh family. And Billy starts working in the dark mining pits of Aberystwyth when he turns 13. And his elder sister, Ethel Williams, she works as a house servant or housemaid in a royal household. Next, we have Maud Fitzgerald, who belongs to aristocratic background, English aristocracy. And despite being from an aristocratic background, she supports the Liberal Party of Britain and is a women's suffragette. Okay, and eventually she falls in love with Walter von Ulrich. Now, Walter von Ulrich, he's a German diplomat or a German spy based in Great Britain, and so this is how they both met and they fell in love. And before leaving Great Britain, Walter von Ulrich, he persuades Maud to secretly marry him. Okay, and their secret marriage is only known by her housemaid Ethel Williams and Walter's Austrian cousin Robert von Ulrich. Okay, now we have another main protagonist named Gus Devar, who is an American law student but works for President Woodrow Wilson in the White House. And as the war bring all these families together, he somehow gets connected with the lives of Maud and Walter. And lastly, we encountered the Russian orphanage brothers named Lev and Grigory Peshkov. Now, Grigory and Lev Peshkov, they lost their parents due to the brutal policies of Tsar and his ministers in Russia. Okay, they were following the policy of communism, but nothing there was at all pleasant for the miner workers. Okay, so this Grigory, he eventually decides that he would be fleeing to America because America was a capitalist country. It had many luxuries, it had many dreams for him. So he was planning for fleeing to America or emigrating to America from a very long time back, and he was saving for that as well. But when the final time came, when the ship was waiting for him in the waters to sail to America, something happened, and destiny has something else decided for him, and it was Lev instead of Grigory who emigrates to America, and Grigory is held back when the war and the revolution finally begins in Russia. So this was all about the first installment or the first novel in Century Trilogy written by Ken Follett, called as Fall of Giants. Now, moving to the next novel, we have Winter of the World. As I told earlier, it revolves around the theme of World War II. Now, World War II might be a kind of quite interesting and quite exciting than the World War First, because we are all familiar with it in somehow or the other. This novel, it starts from the year 1913. It starts from the year 1913 when Hitler took over the Reich, the German parliament, and started ruling by decree, sidelining the parliament, listening to nobody but his Gabelle ministers and of course himself. And there was not a country left on the European continent that was not under the influence of his fascist and racist policies. From UK and Portugal in the west to Russia and Latvia in east, every country was affected in some way or the other. Okay, so the plot of this novel, it follows the Carla von Ulrich, the daughter of Maud and Walter. Yes, the second generation of the families we mentioned earlier in the Fall of Giants. The second generation of those families would be here shown in this novel. Okay, so second generation of Maud and Walter, whom they name as Carla von Ulrich, she encounters the brutal and the racist policies of Hitler, and it involves all her struggle. Okay, now secondly, we encounter this Lloyd Williams. Lloyd Williams, he is the son of Ethel Williams, and he desperately wants to join the Labour Party of Britain and wants to be a member of English Parliament. Okay. Now then we have this Daisy Peshkov, who is the daughter of Lev Peshkov, who was an immigrant from Russia to America. And Daisy, she's a typical teenager. All she thinks about is fame, fashion, money, high status in society, people just worshipping her. So this is the life of Daisy Peshkov. Then we have Volodya Peshkov, who's the son of Grigory Peshkov, who was held back in Russia due to certain circumstances at that time. And Volodya Peshkov, he's a Russian spy posted in Germany at the time of Hitler. How thrilling and exciting is that, right? And lastly, we encounter the two brothers, sons of Gazdevar, named Woody and Chuck. While Woody, he's contributing immensely in the American politics, Chuck is posted somewhere in the jungles of Pacific, fighting for his country, the United States. So this was all about, the second installment in Century Trilogy named Winter of the World. Okay, and this was a kind of, my first novel in the Century Trilogy. I read half of it, but then I was like, these novels are amazing, so I should read them from first. So I ordered the first and the third novel, and then I started reading them once again. Trust me, they are that interesting. Then the last installment of this novel, on this Century Trilogy, we have The Edge of Eternity. Now, Edge of Eternity, it follows the sort of Cold War era, and we all know that two superpowers came forward when the Cold War began, and they were America and Soviet Union. They were on the opposite sides, and they were both the nuclear countries, and the whole world held its breath that if there's going to be a war between these countries, there would be an end of eternity, and hence the title Edge of Eternity. I'm using the End of Eternity, but the title is Edge of Eternity because the war never happened, right? There was always a kind of confusion regarding it, but the war never happened. We are still reading, we are living. Thank God for that. So, in this third novel, we get to see the third generation of the 5 interrelated families that we were introduced to in the first novel of Century Trilogy. And just look at the tremendous work that Ken Follett has put forward in these 3 novels. I mean, first you have to, learn about all those historical events that shaped the world politics at that time. Then learning about all the dates, remembering all those major important key players in the world politics of the 20th century. And then, managing to make your own plot consisting of 5 families with 5 different nationalities and intertwining them. I mean, the work that he's put forward is tremendous. It's tremendous and worth appreciating. And the best way to appreciate his work will be buying one of these novels and start reading. I mean, you can buy the third novel if you're not interested in the First World War, or you're not interested in the Second World War. You can directly come to Cold War era, and you'll be perfectly able to understand it if you have not read the earlier 2 novels. It wholly depends upon you, whatever theme you are interested in. Okay, so this is the beauty of Ken Follett's novel. You can pick any novel from a Century Trilogy and start reading it, and you will be getting things like crystal clear. Okay, so I have already read these novels, but I'll tell you one thing, that I'll be reading them again and again in the near future, and maybe in the distant future, because these novels, they are just tremendous, and They are just incredible. They are just fascinating, enthralling. They keep the reader bind to them. And once you open the first page, you can't just keep them down until you have turned the last page. And these novels, they are incredible, trust me. Once you open them, you would be like me. You will be like a passionate reader about them. Trust me, you can trust me on that.